Welcome back to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Coyne, founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, CrossFit HSN, and HSN Mentoring, where we believe something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated. The Nutrition Business Virtual Workshop was last week. We helped hundreds of gym owners and nutrition coaches clarify their message to bridge the gap between the problem of chronic disease and the solution within a gym through fitness and nutrition coaching. Really, this information can be applied to chiropractors, wellness facilities, Pilates studios. If you have a business that focuses on getting people healthy and fit, this information applies to you. And you can get free access to the presentation replay to hear the main concepts delivered by clicking the link in the show notes. Today's guest on the podcast is our Director of Nutrition Education, Ashley Osterman. And in this episode, we are talking all about FAD diets, fast-acting diets. This is actually one of the topics that we talked about during the Nutrition Business Virtual Workshop as well. How often have you had a client ask you about a specific FAD diet or a powder that someone involved in a multi-level marketing scheme was trying to get them to buy? It happens to us almost every single week, whether it be through Messenger, emails, or our clients even just asking about specific food products that have come up. In this episode, we discuss some of the most popular FAD diets and how you can support your clients as a nutrition coach or a gym owner when they want to try a FAD diet. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Grow Your Nutrition Business podcast, Ashley.
Well, thank you for having me back again, Nicole.
Ashley, you are our Director of Nutrition Education. Everything that comes out, new client resources and tools, all go through you first.
That's right.
It's so important that we have a dietitian involved with every piece of content that's being delivered out to nutrition coaches, and you are at the forefront of it.
Yeah, one of my biggest passions is research. You ask anybody, I'm such a numbers geek. And I think when it comes down to it in a nutrition coach perspective is I think it's important for our clients to understand the why behind what we're telling them. And the why behind everything that we do and we implement at Healthy Steps Nutrition is research and practice-based.
Absolutely. We want to test it out with us first and our clients first. And once we can figure out all the systems and get all of those in place, test out the resources, then it ends up and being delivered to the gyms running our program.
Yes, and it's a nice fine-tuned version, not like the beginning version that we usually work with.
Absolutely. And, the program has leveled up so much with all of your support over the years. And, nutrition coaches really at the end of the day just want to feel confident, and they need support and resources and tools to help them feel confident, especially if they don't have a huge nutrition background.
Absolutely. It's so true.
One of the things that we discussed during the Nutrition Business Virtual Workshop, and a popular topic that comes up with nutrition coaches, is FAD diets.
Oh my goodness. Google diet. Billions upon billions of search results that come up. There are so many different diets out there.
It's a $70 billion industry. There's a lot of money put behind different diets to make sure that they are successful. And sometimes that means they mislead the public, and the public is overwhelmed because there is so much information out there. And one day it's good and one day it's not. And you were trying to follow keto and there are all these different keto products now. And it's just so confusing for a lot of people. And nutrition coaches, if they don't take a step back and understand the why behind a client asking about that diet, it could be super frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we have clients that come in and they want to talk to us about nutrition coaching, but they're particularly interested in a fad diet, it is really important to ask them why. Why are you interested in doing keto? Is it your friend, family, neighbor had some good results? Is it because something you saw in a magazine cover at the grocery store that promises you instant results? What is the why behind you wanting to try this fad diet?
Absolutely. It's so many times it's because my neighbor saw good results. My coworker did it. My coworker's selling this supplement. It happens all the time with multi-level marketing.
All the time.
Programs, right?
Yeah, you even see now they have shops, multi-level marketing shops for shakes and supplements and things. And oh man, it can be really hard to navigate all that noise. Absolutely. When you are really just looking to improve your health and to get to a better place.
But as a nutrition coach, you need to understand what are the possible benefits of some of these fast acting diets and what are the risk factors and how could you navigate if a client is so set on doing a specific diet, how can you still support them on their journey?
Absolutely. I think that brings us to really discussing, I think, the top 4 fad diets that we hear a lot about from our nutrition clients.
Let's do it.
All right. So the first one that you guys might have heard about is intermittent fasting.
Absolutely. I went to CrossFit Health had a conference, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. I know one of the speakers was talking about intermittent fasting. I don't remember his name, but he said, and it stood out in my mind because this is the perfect example. He said, all you need to do is eat within a 4 or 6 hour window and you can have whatever you want. Eat all the cheeseburgers from McDonald's, eat the fries, eat whatever you want. I'm like, this does not make sense. Like, no. Right?
No.
You might be able to eat in a window, but could you eat healthy foods that are going to provide your body with the nutrition you need to support the goals that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, and I think if we take any of these fad diets and look at it in a lens of healthy foods and whole foods and balance, that, yeah, they could potentially be great for your clients. But going into the mindset that I can eat anything I want in this small window and I'm going to lose weight, it's not going to help. It's not going to be sustainable for the long term.
So possible benefits with intermittent fasting, there is research that shows it helps with inflammation.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, of course, weight loss because you're consuming less calories because you're only eating during your window of, consumption, not your fasted window. So yeah, we could have some weight loss happening there. You could also have a benefit for your metabolic health. I mean, we kind of all intermittent fast. If you think about it, every night we go to bed, right? Breakfast is technically when we break fast. So it's time for your body to kind of go into the healing stage, go into the relaxing stage, have cell regeneration, get all those things that we need to happen when we rest. However, there could also be some potential risk factors when we talk about intermittent fasting. It's not ideal for athletes. We really find that with athletes, if they're coming off of their fasting window and then they jump right into physical activity, they can have some detrimental effects that way.
Also, you have to look at what type of medication someone is on. So if you're having a diabetic, start intermittent fasting, and then all of a sudden their blood sugar drops too low, now you could potentially have ketoacidosis or some other type of not positive response.
Yeah. And I think another thing that people don't realize too, I think one of the most common methods is the 16-8 method for intermittent fasting. So that involves fasting every day for between 14 to 16 hours and only eating during like a window of 8 to 10 hours. So even though we're fasting during those 14 to 16 hours, we still need to make sure that we're adequately hydrating. And I think a lot of times people forget that they need to continually drink during that time. So we could have dehydration effects as well.
So I'm thinking, some people are truly addicted to food. Some people are truly addicted to food, especially people that like binge eat at night. And if they do well under restrictive guidelines to break the habit of binge eating at night, this potentially could be an option.
Absolutely.
Right? Like this could be an idea where you say like, all right, we're going to have a hard stop at this time and you're done. But if you're doing such a small window and you do that earlier in the day, is it going to cause someone to binge later? You have to look at all the factors. When we look at, there's one overarching umbrella with any type of fad diet, right? It's you're dieting, you have a restriction in calories. So no matter which way you're looking at it from a time perspective or a type of macronutrient perspective, we have a restriction of calories that will cause weight loss.
Yeah, in the short term, absolutely.
Yeah.
But is it sustainable over the long term? Not always.
The more restrictive a diet is, I think the less long-term clients' results will be. I mean, you have a ton of research that you've done with dieting and people regaining weight.
Absolutely. 2/3 of people who go on a diet and actually do lose weight over, the first month to 3-4 months end up actually gaining back that weight plus more afterwards. So once they meet that weight goal, they kind of revert back into old habits and then the weight gain comes back. And it's unfortunate.
Absolutely. You work really hard. You don't want to counteract all your hard work. I think your role as a nutrition coach is make sure that, ups and downs, there's less of a lag time between the down before you get back on the wagon, right?
Absolutely. And, intermittent fasting may be a great strategy for some of your clients. So I think as a nutrition coach, if you do have a client that will benefit from this, really working on making sure that they're eating quality whole foods and balanced meals during their window. They're eating sufficient calories depending on what their activity level looks like and what their goals are. And we're making sure that they're drinking plenty of water while they're in their fasting window.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the next one.
Okay, this is a diet that is very popular. In fact, Nicole, we see many food products and supplements that go along with this diet, and I feel like I see a lot of people trying this diet out over and over and over again, the ketogenic diet.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my favorites. So, CrossFit promoted this one for quite some time, right? And there is more and more research like cutting carbohydrates, decreasing inflammation, like absolutely. But is it sustainable for most people? It's too big of a jump, right? You're cutting out too much. It's just not sustainable. When I was in the grocery store not that long ago, there was a magazine cover and it said mega keto.
Mega keto.
What does that mean? Really large keto? I'm not sure, but then we Googled it.
Yep. And then it turns out it's this new crazy crash keto diet that is also marketing a supplement that comes along with it to help contradict all of the negative outcomes you're going to have and the side effects from having minimal to no carbohydrates in your diet.
That's perfect because the supplement industry isn't tested. So we have no idea what is in.
No idea. And the thing is, you're probably feeling horrible on these minimal to no carbohydrate diets because your body needs carbs, guys. Carbs are not the enemy. Carbs turn into glucose. They're what feed our brain. Without carbs, you're going to have mental fog. You're going to have sluggishness. You're going to not feel your best. So have the supplement and continue keto then.
Awesome. I think there's a fine line. I definitely know some people that have done really well with the ketogenic diet and people that are able to stick with a really strict regimen. Okay. Awesome. But I also think you need to look at the types of foods that you're eating with a ketogenic diet. And when we talk about carbohydrates, having carbs, your body needs some carbohydrates, especially if you're pretty active. But people in general, not just Americans, eat way too many carbohydrates, which has led us to where we're at. So
absolutely.
The standard diet, what we learned in school, have 60% of your calories from carbohydrates. Personally, what we recommend is starting around 40%, not 60%. So looking at more of a balance between protein, carbs, and fat. So I think there's a balance between less than 10% of your calories and 60% of your calories that we can meet in the middle here to have a better balance. But let's talk about ketogenic diet. What does it really mean?
So ketogenic diet is going to be a diet with minimal to no carbohydrates, which causes the body to go into ketosis. And what ketosis is, it's this backup process that's going to convert fatty acids into fuel or ketones because you don't have carbs, right? So generally 60 to 75% of calories come from fat or even more. So you'll see people at the grocery store with butter and bacon and all of these high fat foods because they're on a keto diet. Another thing that we look at with ketogenic diet is between 15 to 30% of calories are going to come from protein. And then between 5 to 10, sometimes even less calories coming from carbohydrates.
So definitely, I think what most people think when they think of ketogenic diet, like we're just going to eat all the protein, we're going to eat all the steak. But in reality, you're just eating a lot more fat. So you use vegetables, for instance, as a way to get fat in. So you're sauteing a ton of spinach with a ton of oil and adding some nuts in there to get the 60 to 70% of your calories coming from fat. Mm-hmm. Fat is the most calorically dense, so it's a lot easier to get your calories from fat than it is from other sources. But looking at, all right, what does that balance really look like in a day? What does a plate look like with having 70% of your calories coming from fat, 15 to 20% coming from protein, and the rest coming from carbohydrates?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard some potential benefits of this diet. Like you said, some people may have really great results on a ketogenic diet. I've heard from clients that they actually feel less hungry while on a ketogenic diet. And it makes sense to me in a nutrition standpoint because you're eating so much more fat, so you're delaying your gastric emptying. So yeah, you might feel fuller for longer, absolutely. However, there's also been benefits shown in different studies where there has been some brain brain damage for some clients. So clients who have had potential issues with brain health, including brain damage, epilepsy, or traumatic brain injury, might actually really benefit from this type of a diet. But this would be considered medical nutrition therapy, and clients would really need to work with a registered or licensed dietitian if using the ketogenic diet to treat that type of a condition.
When we worked at the hospital, both of us worked at the hospital for quite some time, kids would come in with epilepsy and we would give them formula that was super low carbohydrates so that you could get them in a ketogenic state so they could stop with the seizures. Absolutely. There's also some research coming out and research showing that cancer and ketogenic diet works really well, like starving the cancer cells from carbohydrates. And we work with a lot of the barbells for boobs clients.
Yeah. And we work with those clients too. And we don't necessarily have them on a ketogenic diet, but we do have them on a lower carbohydrate diet than we would a regular client.
Absolutely.
That being said, there are also some risk factors when we're talking about a ketogenic diet. There has been no advantage for metabolic health or weight loss shown significantly through research. This is still a semi-new study diet, so that could change in the future. However, there's also been no benefit shown for performance as well. So if we're looking at athletes or people who are very active, this might not be a good diet for them to try because they might need a little more carbohydrates to sustain their activity level.
Absolutely. I mean, I know there's the anomaly. There's a couple like ultra marathon runners and, that have done really well with this, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. But is that scalable, right? Are those same benefits that, as you scale up? I know SEALs, Navy SEALs, their ketogenic diet was used in the Army for a long time because you can go longer periods of time without eating because you can pack in so many calories with all that fat, right? So there are some different ways. I mean, ketogenic diet, although its popularity has come out recently, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing too, it's very important to address if you have a client who really wants to try a ketogenic diet is we really need to focus on foods, whole foods, and not food products. I was at the grocery store last week and I swear there was probably half an aisle full of keto products, everything. Mayo labeled keto, chips labeled keto, everything labeled keto. So people on this diet tend to gravitate towards these food products. And I don't think that's always the best option for us when we're looking at having a healthy, balanced meal. We want to look more at whole food options, not processed food products.
Absolutely. And if your client wants to try keto, okay.
Yeah.
No problem. You could help them. You could get an idea of what a balanced day looks like using whole foods. It definitely takes more prep work to follow a ketogenic diet because you really have to think about how are you going to get all of the fat in that I need without just drinking olive oil.
Right. And I see too, a lot of times people tend to gravitate towards the higher fat meats, those meats that contain the upwards of 5 grams of fat per ounce of protein. So I think working with somebody on a keto diet, we can have some moderate and high sources of protein every now and then, but let's still focus on lean meats and look at getting our fats from plant-based sources like nuts and oils and seeds.
And even if you're getting it from nuts, there's carbohydrates in nuts. Yes. So then it's a fine balance. So you're going to end up having more higher fat meats for sure with a ketogenic diet. All right. I think we nailed down the ketogenic diet. Let's talk about the next one.
Yeah, counting macros. You guys might have heard if it fits in your macro term.
Yeah, I want a donut every day and I'm going to just make sure I'm going to log all of my stuff and I'm going to hoard out the carbohydrates and fat till the very end of the day. And I'm going to sit in front of the TV and eat a donut every day. That's counting macros, right?
Yeah. Actually that's kind of a disordered eating mindset, right? Where we're going to count and track and just be on our devices, making sure that we're saving every little bit so I can then binge later in the night, right? Or binge the next day or save them for whatever. So counting macros as counting your macronutrients, your carbohydrates, your fat, your protein within a calorie goal, making sure you're meeting those goals throughout the day or throughout the week, whatever it might be. There are some potential benefits with, counting your macros because it can provide a well-balanced diet and it can give you an idea of how a balanced diet should look. If we're counting the macros and we see how that looks on a device or whatnot, and we're looking at it on our plate, we have that kind of relationship to how a balanced meal should be. However, there are some issues with this because you were talking about saving your macros and then binging on unhealthy foods.
And tends to cause people to have this disordered eating, this mind game where I'm going to save everything so I can have treats every single day. And at the end of the day, sugar is so addicting. The more you have, the more you crave. And a lot of times with macros, you're making it okay, justifying a way to fit in crappy food.
Yeah. And instead of doing that, I think the better idea for counting macros is let's look at how to balance every meal and snack and, be within a macro goal, but balance everything throughout the day so we're sustaining throughout the day our activity. We're being able to think clearer, we're able to feel better, we stay fuller longer, and we're seeing the benefits of actually consuming whole balanced meals.
You're going to stay full longer when you eat whole foods and have a majority of your diet consisting of vegetables. And when you look at weight loss, a lot of our clients are weight loss clients. It is a calorie game to lose weight, right? But if you just are playing the calorie game, you could be losing muscle really easily or storing fat, right? Yeah. So you want to look at having a balance of macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. And as a nutrition coach, you can be guiding people to have a balance without saying, here's your exact numbers, meet them for the day. Most people that come in that say, I want to follow macros or like I want my macros, they have no clue what a macro even means.
Yeah. They're on the bike trying to ride before even having training wheels, right? So as a nutrition coach, your job is to educate them. And really, I think placing a low emphasis on the numbers and letting them know that we're striving for progress, not perfection.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why we really focus on the plate method to get started. Like, we believe at Healthy Steps Nutrition that something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated. And if you keep it simple for clients, they're going to be able to stick with it. But if you're telling a client they need to count macros on day one and they've never used MyFitnessPal before or a food tracking app and they don't even know what a macronutrient is, it's going to be a super frustrating experience for them and for you because you're going to get a million questions as a nutrition coach. When instead, if we said, hey, I just want you to have 2 fists of vegetables for every lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Start
over
simple.
The next week. Like, let's just do that. Here's the best ways to prep vegetables. Here's some easy ways to sneak them in. You don't like very many vegetables? That's all right. Do you like raw peppers? Okay. Yeah. Can you cut up some raw peppers and have baggies and just have those every day for lunch and dinner?
Yeah, absolutely. Giving them some new recipes to try with veggies. I know the air fryer is a game changer when it comes to cooking and preparing vegetables. People who swore up and down their lives they'd never eat a vegetable, inhale buffalo cauliflower.
Absolutely. If it's simple, your clients will stick to it. And sometimes the macros, giving people just macronutrients is very overwhelming, and you're not going to be able to build a long-term nutrition client because they're going to feel super overwhelmed. So think about that when you're talking to clients about macronutrients, even with their branding, right? Like when clients come to us, they don't expect macros to be a part of their plan because we don't talk about it. Nope. Do we have clients that are logging? Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, we do. And do they see great progress when they're logging? Absolutely. But it's not for every person, and especially not on day one.
Absolutely not. Yeah. So I think that's so important, really finding out where they are. They might come to you saying, I want to do this, but how much they really know about what they're wanting to do.
I think you have to go in with an open mind and not be judgmental and look at even talking to yourself in the mirror. What do your facial expressions look like? What does your body language look like? Are you fostering a welcoming environment, or are you closing them off and kind of degrading them because they have these questions? People are naturally going to be curious, and there's so much marketing dollars put behind these concepts, and they're seeing Instagram celebrities posting about macros and donuts, so they want to look like that too.
Yeah, and that brings us to our 4th fad diet, which actually has gotten a lot of increased popularity after a certain documentary came out.
Game changers.
Yes, and that is plant-based. So you might hear it as vegan, vegetarian, whole food, plant-based, but a plant-based diet. So
that's an interesting one, right? Forks Over Knives. My husband was actually in that documentary, his dad.
Oh, really?
You didn't know?
No.
Yeah. I was watching it one day when we just started dating. I was like, are you in this documentary? I'm pretty sure it says Jason a coin and your picture is in there. That's you. I'm watching you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we've seen it kind of firsthand, right? So there is research out there. Right?
Absolutely. There are great benefits for this type of a diet.
To eat whole foods.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the key. The whole foods plant-based is a great option. Whole foods is the key to that though. When we look at a lot of vegetarian and vegan type diets, there's a lot of marketing to those types.
There's a lot of food products, soy-based food products. Who even knows?
Convenience food products. You can go to Burger King and get an Impossible Burger now. There's pretty much a vegan or vegetarian option any fast food place you go.
And if you look at the ingredients in Impossible Burger, it's pretty impossible to even read because there's so many ingredients in there. So, if your clients are wanting to do vegetarian, right? And even I went to the last DDC meeting CrossFit Health put on at CrossFit HQ was debunking Game Changers. It was so interesting. It was awesome. And even when you really look at the research behind, okay, this is an interesting documentary.
It's kind of cherry picked, I feel like.
That, and then, it was like, oh, we're plant-based-ish most of the time. What does that even mean?
It can mean something different to anybody. Their interpretation of what that diet is can be completely different from person A to person B. So again, if your client comes in, they want to talk about a plant-based diet, what does that mean to you? What does a plant-based diet? One person told me that means I eat plants with every meal.
Perfect.
Great. That's what we do here. Let's talk about eating plants,
Yeah.
But, you will have those people who do want to be a strict vegetarian or a strict vegan. And, for whatever reason, it might be a religious or environmental conviction. It might be because they've seen some research that shows reduced risk of certain type of health conditions. For whatever reason it might be, it is important to also remember there are considerations when participating in this type of a diet.
Most vegetarians eat a very high carbohydrate, just the portions of macronutrients for a vegetarian or vegan diet is a higher carbohydrate
because
lower protein.
They're associated with protein. Protein sources for vegetarian and vegans usually have carbohydrates included in them.
And then when you talk to them about it, where are you getting your protein from? I'm getting it from beans. Oh, okay. Well, did you also know there's 50 grams of carbohydrates in the same serving that you have with a smaller portion of protein? So, you have to kind of draw attention to that and really see, are they meeting their protein goals for the day? When I work with vegetarians, and we do work with them, absolutely. Yeah. We have great resources for vegetarians and
vegans.
And vegans. I love vegetables. I think that's great. We meet a common ground there. But you have to really be so mindful when working with them because there are some limitations
and considerations. Yeah, like you already said, adequate protein intake is one of the top ones. We also look at vitamin B12, vitamin D, calcium, iodine, omega-3 fatty acids, making sure that they're getting those omega-3s, how important those are. So, a lot of times when I'm working with a vegetarian or vegan client, I'm having the conversation about, have you talked to your medical care provider? Do we look at supplementation depending on your blood work? How's that looking for you? And how are you feeling? If someone's feeling tired and sluggish after a workout, they're probably nutrient deficient somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times what I've found is, maybe they want to do mostly plant-based, but they're willing to incorporate yogurt or cheese or eggs, mm-hmm. So looking at what are you able to incorporate. If vegetarians are not getting enough protein, which most aren't, most have to incorporate some type of protein powder.
Yeah, absolutely. A pea protein or pumpkin seed protein, they definitely need to make sure they're monitoring that because that's one of the top 3 mistakes when we talk about looking at a vegetarian or vegan client is they're not monitoring their protein intake.
Absolutely. What are some other things that we would, look at? Considering.
We also kind of touched on this earlier, but they confuse carbohydrate and protein sources. Again, when we're looking at plant-based protein sources, a lot of them are very carbohydrate dense. It comes along with the characteristic of the food. So making sure that they understand the difference between the carbohydrate and the protein and then how that's going to affect their overall consumption of that meal or snack. And then finally, looking at consuming plant-based processed foods. They're just like keto, there's so many things in the marketplace that are targeted for vegans and vegetarians. And just because it says it's plant-based, vegan, or vegetarian does not mean it's healthy. It can still be full of refined carbohydrates, high in trans fats, and that's not something we want to do.
And a lot of them are soy-based.
Yeah.
A ton are soy-based, which is the number 1 genetically modified food.
Yeah.
So look at when you're working with these clients, look at, going back always to the why. Why, and then how do you play a role in their journey?
Yeah, I actually just had a consult with one of our vegetarian clients the other day, and after looking through her daily intake, she wasn't consuming any type of fat. And she was saying that, I just feel like I eat all these vegetables. I'm eating so much food, but I'm never satisfied. I'm always hungry. I wake up hungry. And it's because she's not incorporating the fat. She's not balancing her meals. So just making sure you understand the why and that you're really making sure that they're on track with consuming adequate macro and micronutrients.
Absolutely. Any other tips that you have for nutrition coaches regarding FAD diets?
Yeah, I think when it comes to FAD diets, we can definitely help them if it's something that they are really interested in trying out. I think a really good approach is to use it as an experiment, right? Have them test it out. Give them the pro tips on how they can make it healthy or the healthiest as possible, and have them try it out for a week or two. Have them report how they're feeling. If they're feeling hungry, sluggish, how are they feeling after a workout? How is their brain clarity? And then report back to you and tell you how it went. Do they feel like it was too restrictive, hard to stick to? A lot of times they might come back and say, okay, let's try it your way now. They might be willing to, try a different approach. And I think it's important too that when looking at any FAD diet that we're really making sure that we're using, I call it the 3C approach: curiosity, compassion, and clarity. So be curious, ask them why they want to try that diet, get to the why behind it, and then be compassionate with their reasoning why. Be aware of your body language. No question is stupid. They are so overwhelmed and they're just really coming to you to help you simplify things. And finally, the clarity approach, getting some clear information from them as to why they want to do that and as to how they feel that's going to actually help them in the long term.
I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. So if you are open, you're going to foster a better relationship with you and that client. They're going to be truthful with you.
Yeah.
We had a recent nutrition coach post in our private Facebook group where, nutrition coaches and owners talk about their nutrition programs and they get feedback from other coaches and us, the mentoring team. And she was a little nervous because she was going to meet someone who was like super gung-ho keto.
Yep.
She's like, I don't know if I can help her. I'm like, she's obviously reaching out to you for a reason. She wants help. So don't go in on day one and how you are not going to build rapport with a client is saying, I don't care what you did before, here's what you're going to do now and completely change everything. Like, be curious, be compassionate. That 3C approach is so, so important when we're looking at helping our clients on their journey. It's not your journey, it's their journey.
Yeah. And, utilize the outcome-based decision-making approach, like making sure that, if they do want to try it, that they do the diet for a week or two and that they have some information to how they feel and what their results were. And then let's utilize the outcome-based decision-making. Did it work for you? What do you think about it now? Are you willing to be flexible? I think when it comes down to it, as a nutrition coach, it's all about accountability and support. And these clients are coming to you because they need help, and to keep it as simple as possible and support them no matter where they're coming to you at the start.
Absolutely. No matter what diet your client is trying to try, you can always focus on whole foods and a balance.
Yeah, and be an advocate for the science and the data, and always remind them of the realistic rate of progression. Keto diets aren't going to make you lose 30 pounds in 4 weeks, we need to think about what's sustainable long term.
Absolutely. Ashley, you always have such a great way to make it easy for nutrition coaches to take action. So thank you for going through all of these FAD diets and kind of walking us through what nutrition coaches should be thinking about, pros and cons, and how to apply this information to help their clients.
Yeah, this was a great topic that we had at our nutrition business virtual seminar, and so I'm so glad to talk about it again.
Yes, that was such a great event, which the recordings are now available for purchase. So if you are interested in some of the other topics that we discussed, like strategies to market your nutrition program and really bridging the gap between the problem, your clients feeling overwhelmed because they have no idea what diet is best for them, and the solution, nutrition and fitness coaching, as well as scaling your business beyond the walls of your gym or your physical location, and then retention strategies. That's just such an important topic, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for talking about FAD diets, and we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks, Nicole.
When we recorded this episode, Ashley and I were actually planning on charging for the presentation replay. But I wanted to make this information accessible to all gym owners and nutrition coaches. Gym owners should feel confident talking to their members about nutrition. And the Nutrition Business Virtual Workshop Replay is an awesome first step to help you not reinvent the wheel when it comes to building a nutrition program. You can get free access to the presentation replay by clicking the link in the show notes. But the access is going to end on July 31st. So click the link in the show notes today.